Hello, I'm attorney Terri S. Herron here in the state of Georgia, where we practice exclusively family law. Today, I'm going to answer 5 questions that I'm always asked about the division of property here in Georgia. Number one, what property will I get to keep once the divorce is over? You'll get to keep a fair share of your marital property here in the state of Georgia. Marital property is property that you and your spouse accumulated during your marriage. It may include home, vehicles, investments, personal property, and retirement accounts. Marital property is usually divided equally between the spouses. An unequal division is sometimes appropriate to avoid alimony or provide for a spouse with special needs. You'll also keep all of your separate property, provided it has not been so mixed with marital property that it can't be identified. Separate property is property you acquired before the marriage, and property you received during the marriage as maybe a gift or inheritance. Earnings from separate property that accumulate during marriage, such as interest or dividends, are marital property that is divided. Number two, what happens to the family home in a divorce? If one spouse wants the home and can afford it, the equity in the home is credited to that person's share of the marital property. The spouse taking the home must provide the other spouse with equivalent assets or cash in compensation for his or her share of the equity. The equity can be determined by having the home appraised and then deducting any outstanding mortgages. If you and your spouse cannot agree on who keeps the home, or neither of you can afford it or want it, the usual alternative is to sell the home and split the proceeds. If you think you want to keep the family home, ask yourself these questions. Can you afford to buy out your spouse's interest? Can you afford to pay the mortgage, the taxes, the upkeep on your budget, on your post-divorce budget? Is suitable alternative housing available for a more affordable price? Often, neither party can afford the home, and the only realistic solution is to sell the home. Number three, am I entitled to a share of my spouse's retirement account if we divorce? All property accumulated during your marriage, including your spouse's retirement plan, is subject to division. You will be entitled to a fair share, usually half, of the amount accrued in your spouse's retirement account from the time you married until the time of divorce. Your spouse could buy out your share of the plan by giving you other marital assets or separate assets. Otherwise, the plan benefits are divided. A court order known as a qualified domestic relations order, or as we like to title it, quadro, may need to be sent to the plan administrator to complete the division. Retaining an interest in your spouse's retirement plan may be important if you are unlikely to secure sufficient retirement benefits otherwise. Alternatively, you may prefer a buyout if you expect to have adequate retirement benefits from your employment. Number four, what can I do to prevent my spouse from taking our possessions and draining our accounts before I file for divorce? You'll want to document what you own so that if your spouse does take or destroy property, you'll have proof that the property existed. Make sure you take photos, create an inventory, copy titles, and other financial documents. You can also fill out what we call a marital balance sheet to account for what you have versus what you see you no longer have. The court could award you a greater share of the marital property to compensate for missing assets. When you file for divorce, you can ask the court for orders prohibiting this behavior. A spouse who violates these orders can be punished. Number five, what if my spouse wasted a lot of our assets during our marriage? Sometimes one spouse spends marital assets excessively for selfish reasons. Examples: spending substantial sums on an extramarital affair, spending lavishly on drugs, alcohol, partying, or even a gambling problem. If you did not condone or benefit from the excessive spending, the court may award more of the remaining marital property to you to make up for the wasted funds. Please give us a call today if you'd like to schedule a consultation to discuss a divorce or other family law matters. We can be reached at 404 418 7777.